So welcome everybody, and thank you so much for being here. If you are in project mode and design inspiration out of my sparkle bags, this is project 3 for my May 2025 sparkle bag, Botanic Kiss. This is project 3. You can use any beads you want to accomplish this. So let's get to it, guys. I am using 2, as I mentioned, of our beautiful crystals, and I do believe they're something like around 14 millimeter. And then I'm using 9 of the gorgeous light green bicone crystals. And then I am using 13 of our acrylic 6x4 rice beads in the lime green. So we times that by 2. And then I'm using 2 pieces of monofilament. If you are not familiar with monofilament, you can poke over to my store in my cording menu. I do offer this monofilament. It's a 0.016 inch 6 pound. It's my favorite. If you have bought this from me before, you know how awesome it is. If you buy my sun catcher kits, I include this in my sun catcher kit. Some of my bracelet and earring kits have had this in it before. It is my favorite. Or maybe you have some monofilament in your stash. That's what I'm up to. But you can use bead string and wire too if you want. You can even use some cording, some knotting cord or some wax cord if you want. Totally open options, variations of your stringing material, but I'm using the mono. The other things I'm going to use are some number 2 crimp beads, and I'm going to use a clamshell, and then we'll use some 22 gauge wire to make our ear wires. So let's get to it, guys. So the first thing I did, I just cut this little small piece, and it's probably about 3 inches of mono. And what I'm going to do, I'll pull you in. And let's get things out of the way that we're not working with at the moment. And I am going to feed a crimp down. Now, if you are not familiar with crimping on monofilament, I do have in my Jewelry 101 Basics playlist, very recently, I put up a properly crimping mono or tips to crimping on monofilament video, and it was not that long ago, about a month ago. You can check out that video or any of my Suncatcher design inspiration videos where I talk about the monofilament crimping. So the bottom line is, if you haven't seen any of those videos, you can use your crimping tool or a chain nose, but we only crimp it once. We only need to crimp it once. And the reason for that is because if we crimp it twice, then do our normal crimping taco method, the crimp will slip right off the mono because it's slippery, right? So we're going to make the middle strand with the crystal on it right now. And so I'm going to pull that crimp all the way down, leaving a little tiny bit of tail. Give this crimp a nice squeeze. Just one nice squeeze, guys. Just like that. That's all we need. Okay? We're not gonna make sure I do my tug test that it's grabbed on there. And it did. It grabbed on there great. So we are not gonna turn it over and fold it again. We just are gonna leave it just like that. But I do have a little bit of an elongated tail. We don't need much. Now you don't want to cut it too close because you want to make sure that that crimp stays on there, but I can get rid of just a hair of that. So now that's what I have. I'm going to now put on my crystal with the large portion of the teardrop of it facing down. And if you notice at the bottom, that crimp holds that crystal from coming off. Because these crystals do have a nice hole, but the crimp stops that. If you want to put another bead there, you can. And then I'm going to put on just 3 of my rice beads. And then we'll put this to the side and move on to the teardrop portion of the earring. And so that's what I have. And now we're going to put this to the side for a minute. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is the pattern I did on the teardrop portion here is I did 5 rice beads and then the 9 crystals, 9 bicones, and then another 5 of the rice beads. And this is about a 6 to 7 inch piece of monofilament. We don't need much. So I'm just gonna go ahead and feed on. Okay, and that's what I've got. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put these two together. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my other guy that we just made right here. And I'm going to marry up the ends. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm gonna marry up the ends of all three of those to go ahead and put my teardrop, my second teardrop crystal. Now I'm gonna put this one on facing down, where the smaller portion of the teardrop is facing down. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and I am going to cut that longer one out of my way at the moment. And now we'll get a crimp on here down all three of these wires. Okay, so there we go. And then let that crimp drop down. And this is pretty much what we have, right? Make sure, am I all in there? I am. So now what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna go ahead and push that crimp all the way down into my clamshell since he didn't want to slide down. Let's get him pushed down in there. And then we're just gonna go ahead and put our pliers inside here, and we'll give that clamshell, or excuse me, crimp bead inside our clamshell there a nice squeeze. And again, we're just gonna give it a nice firm squeeze one time. Make sure everything is crimped. And that's what I have. Okay, so we can pull on our clamshell, do our tug tests, we're good. And now we will flush cut all the wires below the clam. So that will be hidden for sure. Make sure you're being mindful that you're not too close to your crimp. And that's what I've got. And now we'll close the clamshell. And help it along a little bit with our pliers gently. Okay, and that is what we have. So our earrings are done. Now we are going to grab our bail making. And we're gonna go ahead and make our own ear wires. I like to do about, you know, around like about a 2-inch piece or so, guys. Just grabbing my wire, hold on, guys. I like to do around a 2-inch piece. Just allows me a little bit of room to work, and if I have to go smaller, I do. So I like to make them at the same time. Again, I'm using 22 gauge, and I am gonna make sure I flush cut both sides of both pieces of my wire. That's after we straightened it out, that's the first thing I'm gonna do here. Make sure they're flush cut, okay? And there we go. So it's cool to make your ear wires at the same time because then they match, right? So I'm gonna go, and you can make any kind of ear wires really. I'm gonna go ahead and use my largest step of my bail here, which is a 9mm. I'm gonna go ahead and put my wire right inside my pliers. Let me pull you out a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So it's kind of about in the center there, thereabouts. And I'm gonna take these wires, I'm gonna push them up and shape them around my tool to where they're both basically up like that. And that's what I have. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, if I take them out, okay, that's what I have. I think There's so many fun types of ear wires to make. I think what I will do is I will turn my I'm going to open my bail making plier. I'm going to turn them to where now my wires are like this. So they're coming out this way and my tool is facing opposite. And I am going to just take the shorter wire and push it back a little bit. So I'm just going to push those back a smidge, just a smidge like that. A little bit. And I'm going to take those out. And now I am going to go ahead and cut these back two, because those are going to be the ones that go through the back of our ear. Our ear be the back of the earring. So I'm going to flush cut both of those wires. I am then going to grab my chain nose and grab the ends of those wires and kick it away from me just a little bit, put a tiny little bend in there, okay? And what I'm gonna do when we're done, don't forget guys, is this part here that goes through your ear, okay? You most certainly want to take and file that with either your jewelry file or a regular nail file, so you get rid of any sharp edges. That's very, very important, so make sure you do that, okay? And so now here's what I have, okay? And so because these are kind of long, I think I'm gonna keep in context of that, and I am going to now grab my ear wires and put them like this, where they're laying next to each other here. And so that back is facing down towards my mat that goes through our ears, right? And I am going to take these loops, or these wires, and I'm gonna just turn in a loop. And I'm, again, gonna use my second bail, but I'm gonna do them both at the same time. So I am going to put this right there at the edge of my plier, and I'll just take these ear wires and wrap them around my tool, just like that. Okay, so that made my loops, and that's what we have. And we'll straighten our loops out a little bit here. Always need to do a little fixing. We can certainly do that. I'm going to go inside of that loop with my chain nose, and I'm gonna kick that down a little bit, so now that's centered my loop. I am now going to open that loop and pop my earring on, my clamshell. And then we'll close that up. And that's the first one. So that's how that looks. If you want to make them shorter, you certainly could. Absolutely. And same thing over here. So that's what it looks like, so no problem at all. We just straighten it out a little bit. We can certainly do that. Turn the loop to where it's straight, and then we'll go right inside at the intersection of where the loop is almost touching that wire there. And we'll just put my plier right there, and I'm going to just move this towards me a little bit, bending it just to center that loop. And then we'll go ahead and open that up and put our clamshells right on there, and go ahead and close that loop. Make sure it's nice and closed there. And voila, there are our earrings. And project 3. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll zoom in a little bit. I hope you guys enjoyed. And you will try to make these beautiful earrings. They are so stunning, guys. In trend, their statement. You want to talk about pop of color on your ear? Well, there it is. These lime green and these teardrops are so beautiful, but they're so lightweight, my friends. I hope you guys enjoyed. And until the next video, friends, be blessed.